Welcome back, dear friends, to another exciting episode of I'm making an Art Deco clock, I think, but I've got completely bogged down with e-paper, which I am actually starting to learn how to use. It feels a little bit like one of the UK water companies spewing out unspeakables through their storm overflow pipes into the tranquil waters of YouTube. So last time I learned how to draw filled polylines to construct each letter from, but they weren't spaced properly. So this time I need to space them, the letters, like the sloping in day, the A and the Y look wrong and things like that, and then centre them, and then, oh dear friends, my dream is to be able to connect 3 of these e-papers to one Arduino Mega. I've been told it is impossible, nigh on, if not completely, but we are going to persevere as always. Thank you very much. I've done it. I know it's not centred, but it's a start. I've now got letters moving across accurately spaced because I measured the gaps between all the letters. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. Then added an extra thing to me layers struct W, which is the width of each character. Perfect place to store it. And now I've laboriously gone through adding the width of each character. Lovely. So now when I draw a number, say 28 for example, there we are. Look, there's a global variable called next X position. I will move it up to the top. I'm just testing it for now. Then you come on to draw number and it sets the next X position to 0. So I'll have to work something out to centre it, but at the moment it just sets it to the left hand side and then does its business, calls the draw character thing, and it draws it at the top and the X, the next X position, the global variable, it's YX, just to make life a little bit more confusing. How lovely. Then it sets the next X position to the width of this last letter, and then it goes round again, so you theoretically could write as many characters as you want and it will space them one after another. So that's exciting. Heavens to Betsy, it's that time again. Time to take Ziggy for a walk. The days just fly by, it's incredible. Where is she? You can see we're getting ready for camping. Oh look, there's the doggy. Oh Ziggy, look at you, yes. You love a tummy scratch, don't you? Oh bless you. Oh, it's time for a walk, Zig. Are you up for that? I think you are. Excellent. Oh, oh! Look! Oh, I can't tell you how exciting that is. Obviously I need to do a little bit of work on the letter spacing because it looks a little bit odd. Oh, but that... oh... that's amazing. So now I can go ahead and write in all the other numbers for all the letters for the different words. Excellent. I never thought it was going to work. So that's all well and good. Rather exciting. Now we need to centre it. So I've worked out a way. It's not very elegant, but it hopefully works. I haven't tried it yet. It goes through, once it's got a draw word, so it's got all those numbers, number for each letter. It then goes through, looks each one up, and the width of each one that's stored in a different array, adds them together, and then knows that the display is 296 wide, takes away that, divides by 2, and then sets, remember I mentioned it earlier, or yesterday, next X position, that's where it's going to start drawing each character, to that. And then now it knows that, it can then send it through and start drawing the actual characters. Now, I've just tried to upload and obviously made a mistake. Let's give it another go, so you can share in the angst and the grief and the vague hope of success. I think it's up. Oh, it's uploaded. Yes! Success, dear friends. Lovely. So now I can put a film on, so I don't have to concentrate too hard, and sit and put all the numbers, all the letters for all the words into all the arrays. How lovely. I'm sure ChatGTP could help, but it's just I don't mind doing it, and I think it would be quite difficult to explain it. I have to ask lots and lots of times. Yes, we still have one or two issues regarding spacing and size of the display. So we need a way to calculate an X scale or factor so that we can shrink the letters if they're too small. We could actually make them wider if they're too big, but I don't really want to do that. So how can we go about doing that then? The starting position, where it starts drawing each thing, if it's greater or equal to 0, that's fine. Letter scale equals 1, it's going to keep it the same. But if it's small, if it's basically the word is too wide, then make X letter scale, which is a float, so it can be sort of decimal points and things, the width of the display divided by the overall word width. Ah, right. Now, I could have made X letter scale a global variable, like I did with Next XPOS. That I don't think is the right way to do it, and I thought I'd do it the proper way. I think this is the proper way anyway, where you basically, this function calls this function, and I've now added X letter scale. So now this function has a float called X letter scale. This function then calls this function. Ooh, here it is again. That function calls this function. So this is about the fifth function. That function then, does it call? Yes, somewhere or other. Yes, there we are. It calls this function. And this one, where it reads the original coordinates from the progmem, look, that's where we do a little calculation. I've done it like this just because I wanted to check whether it would work, and if it didn't I could delete it. But it does work, so that's nice. So that's where each x coordinate is multiplied by the x scale, and then that, dear friends, does this. Isn't that lovely? So it's not running off each end, it's shrunk the whole lot down. I have to say I'm rather partial to this part of the project, where I've got the whole thing working and that's tweaking and fiddling, because now what I'm going to try and do, and I'm not sure how, is to work out a way of calculating the distance between letters. Because I can look at that and instantly see the huge gap down between the I and the Y, because the A is sloping this way, the Y is sloping that way. I want to see if I can work out, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's silly. I want to see whether I can work out some way of calculating the area, the visible area. I'll have a think. I've come up with a truly horrible, nasty kerning code. I've realised that the only problems I have are when it says day, because it just looks wrong. So if something, it works out whether it's being asked to display a day. If it is, it then minuses 5 from the D and minuses 10 from the A. But the fact is, dear friends, that does not look too shabby. In fact, the spacing on that is pretty damn good. Because before, if you remember, the Y was floating off somewhere over here. It was actually touching the end of the display, which is ridiculous, I tells you. Now let me put December up so we can see if the D is affected then. Whilst that's loading, or uploading, you may notice there's this is all to the right, to the left rather. They're all wonky, they're too far over to the left, and I was trying to work out why it is. Then I remembered or realised that it's going on the spacing that I've calculated between each letter and the next letter. So it's counting this last bit here, which I don't want. That's why it's shifting them all that way. There we are, December looks fine. I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to have to do now, this is lunacy, I tell you. What are you going to do? Having got all of the, that's it, this is Y. So for example, if it ends with, just a single number, it's always going to have this extra bit to the right hand side, so it's all going to be shifted to the left. I don't want that, we can't have that. I did think about ways of calculating it, but instead I can sit here, put my film on, and now measure the width of every actual letter, so that it can then calculate, or it can ignore the extra, on the last, it's just on the last letter as well. The things we do. Here's my array, which I must store in progmem. I need to look up how to read it. which has got the layer numbers. Front layer, draw black, then white, white if it's a maximum of 2 holes in the letter, then the width of the overall character plus the space after it, and this is the new one. Yes. This one is the actual width of the character. And this is where it actually does the business, as they say in the trade. Draw word function. If if I is equal to n minus 1, there's n, that's the maximum number of letters in that word, so it's less than n. So if it's n minus 1, it means that's the last letter. Add word width, add to the word width thing, the total, with the lay dot, there we are, look, character width. Else, if it's one of the other letters before the last one, use the way you were doing it before. I think it works, because I've just uploaded that, and that looks perfectly centered. Let's try a challenging one. Let's try Wednesday. See how long it takes to do the calculate. That's better. Yes. There's an equal gap at each end. Lovely. And day is, oh, the spacing. Yes. Great. Another problem solved. Who thought I could say so much about a wretched bit of e-paper? I thought this was just going to be, oh, the first 10 minutes, 5 minutes of the next video about a month ago. It's interesting because when you upload it, the IDE, the Integrated Development Environment, tells you how much memory you're using. And you can see here, 3% of program storage space. Lots left. You can see that's the value of storing stuff in ProgMem. There's loads of room there. Oh dear friends, what a day yesterday was. It was a joy. Pretty typical of days at Steamhead though, many of them with this wretched e-paper project. Sorry, Art Deco Clock project, that's it, I've forgotten what I was doing. It starts off regularly with me thinking, I've got just about enough knowledge to have a dream. I want to achieve something. I know it's got to be possible, but I have no idea how. And through the fog of ignorance, I have to then struggle, determined to find the solution. Now yesterday I did. So the next part of the project, and we've got everything else working, stored in ProgMem, writing all the numbers, the words, everything I want, was to be able to write to 3 separate e-paper displays, day, date and month, which corresponds to 3 hills in the front of the clock. Now I know it's possible because one of the 3 libraries I found, I think it was one on Instructables by someone, had said that he'd added a function so that you could change the pins, the connection pins for the e-paper, whereas the WaveShare library, you can't do that, they're just set. So I thought, well, you know, you can set pins on an Arduino programmatically, you can tell them whether in or out or which ones to use and all this. So therefore, why not just have a new function in the library that allows you to say, okay, I want these 4 pins to be used now or whatever. It's got to be possible. Now I know nothing about libraries, they're beyond me. All the double colons and little tildes, I think they're called, that regularly appear. Tildes, what a lovely name for a squiggle. I have no idea. I think they're really, really well structured, very well written functions and things that are all packaged up nicely that you can then refer to. Above that, I had no idea. So I thought I'd ask me old mate, just for a few clues, ChatGTP, and it came back, and it's just so, it's lovely. I know I keep going on about it, and I do apologise, I'm a real hypocrite. But I said, can you add a function to a library, or show me a function for a library, for a WaveShare e-paper, so I can actually dynamically set the pin connections. And it came back saying, yes, that sounds interesting, and came back saying, well, you need to do this and all the examples down it. Would you like me to put them all together in a zip file? And I said, oh yes please, you know, why bother to read stuff? And it did that, and then I loaded that, added them instead, replaced the old libraries, put it onto the computer, clicked verify, because if you just want to test something without bothering to upload it, you can click the tick. That then compiles it, or tries to, and tells you if it's successful. and then if you click the arrow on the right, it then compiles it and then uploads it. Oh, how many times did I click that tick yesterday? And it's lovely, and it starts, and then you get the invariably the orange line at the bottom and a highlighted piece of like code and a warning or error message. What a pain. So I copied the error message onto Notepad, went back to ChatGTP and uploaded it and said, this is the error it came back with. Said, blah, 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 you need to do this, that and the other. Load of example code. Do you want me to do that for you? You can see where I'm going with this. Oh, yes, please. Why bother to read anything? Right, so after having done that about 5 or 6 times, you know, it is insanity, isn't it, when you do the same thing and you keep getting the same result and you expect a different one. But I realised when I actually started reading and learning stuff, and then I opened the library files that ChatGTP had kindly zipped up and created for me, it was only focusing on things that were involved with dynamically writing the pin connections. Everything else it deleted. All the other stuff, all the other functions, everything gone. I'm so pleased. There's a lesson for you. So don't give ChatGTP too much scope. Just keep it focused on the minutiae. So in the end, I managed to cobble together and reported a couple more errors, and actually looked and thought and used my brain and managed to personally add the function necessary, and then ChatGTP helped me to clear up some issues with other bits of the library that refer to it and all the double colons and tildes. And it worked. Oh dear friends. Lots of people have suggested this isn't possible, and I'm so pleased. This is the second time with this project. Oh, you can't do big letters, vector fonts, yes. You can't have several displays connected to a Mega or something. That's not possible. Well, it is. It's so exciting. A dream come true, if you will. Let me show you. You share the high-speed communication, serial communication, which I can't remember the name of, but it's on pins 52 and whatever on the Mega, that all of the displays can share them. Hence the fact the yellows and the blues, which are those two, come off. The yellows and blues, you can't really see it there. So they're all connected together. They can be shared, but the other 4 pins need to be dedicated, and the power supply can be shared as well, obviously. But these 4 pins need to be have their own 4 things, and they are CS, chip select, DC, which is data something, reset, and busy, which is actually an output from the paper to say I'm busy, leave me alone for the time being. Now, by my calculations, that's where the original one was fixed, with the fixed numbers with the waveshare code. But I've then picked another 4 down here, and 4 and another 4 over there. I forget how many I've got. I have calculated, in fact, you could have about 12 pieces of this e-paper, these e-paper displays, attached to 1 Mega that could control all of them. The power and power draw and stuff, that's no problem. These draw minimum microamps of power, and the fact is they only do that while they're being written to, and you don't write to them all at once. You write to the one and then the next one and then the next one, or whatever you want to do. That's just so exciting. So here is what you do. So this uses an adapted version of the EPD 2in9 bottom slash v2 CPP and H library files. The nice, well, waveshare library it isn't actually compiled as a library. It adds all these different files on the top. Most of these are actually, coincidentally, for fonts stored as bitmaps. I wondered about getting rid of them, but then I thought, well, some stage in the future I might want different size. I don't know. I thought it was just easier to leave them as it still fits onto the Mega. So it does that. It creates, there we are, EPD, which is the e-paper display. Oh yeah, I've been spending days wondering what that stands for. E-paper display called display, which comes up in brown. So you do that at the top. Everything else stays the same as it was, which is nice. And then down here, yeah, you create paint and set its width just as before. This is the new exciting bit. You go display, which we've created now, set pins. I want this is the original one, so I just had 10 for CS, 9 for DC, 8 for Art Reset and 7 for Busy. Then you initialize the display. That changes and sets the pins. It clears all the other bits, clears memory and sets it all up. Then you clear the frame so that it clears any images that are on it. So you display the cleared frame so it's just blank white. Then we do whatever we want to draw here. So I've cleared the paint buffer graphics area, and then draw word by index. That was that function I wrote that days, dates and months. So 32, I've just make a note because I've been testing it, is a Monday. Is that right? It's Monday. Then it displays the frame. That's all of the separate letters that have been uploaded to the e-paper. Displays the frame, then it sends the frame to sleep, and then that's it. Then I want to write to a different piece of e-paper, so then I do the whole of that little block again. Obviously I'm going to write this into some sort of function, but you just change the numbers, and then you do it again for a third time. How lovely. Let's change some numbers now. Let's go to, let's make that Wednesday, because that's a nice long one, so 34, and we'll make this a date rather. So everything below 31 or 32 is a date. So let's make that 26th. That's nice. And then lastly, we can make this a month. Well, let's go to December. So 50. There we are. And obviously I'm doing this, editing the sketch, but there's nothing in loop with this sketch at all. Isn't that amazing? All this is just being done to test it and set it up. But all my looping and things can be in here. That'll be reading the real-time clock every 24 hours or so. So for now, let us click that. And fingers crossed, the orange bar of horror doesn't apply. Right, let's have a look at the displays then. Right, it's uploaded. So that should say, I can't remember what day we said. It does take a long time to draw. Wednesday, that's right. And then look, it then addresses that one. Oh, what joy. And then, look, this is just amazing. I can't tell you how thrilled I am, because I'd even got to the stage where thinking, well, if I can't do it programmatically, I could have a discrete logic chip sitting there, and then the 4 outputs going to it, and then it can address, you know, connect it up, the connections as needed. But this is just fantastic. It seems so frustrating to have another chip on it when this is capable of doing it. So, dear friends, you can control up to roughly about 14 e-paper displays from 1 Mega. Isn't that lovely? I'm so pleased. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you found it enjoyable and instructive, and possibly even inspirational. Inspirational? Yes, that's a word. Next time, I've got to try and work out how to fit a real-time clock to it, so it can actually display the day, date and month. That was the original plan, I seem vaguely to remember. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you next time.